Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are here for Kaam Ki Baat, which is a series of live webinars with industry experts where they share their career journey with us. Now, imagine how inspiring that would be, right? We will get a chance to hear the story of how they started their career. We would also learn from them about the kind of qualities and the kind of skills that it takes to become a professional in their respective fields. And also, we would love to hear from them the importance of learning new skills. So, overall, it's going to be one enriching experience for all of us. Now, for today's session, we have Miss Vartika Dixit, University Leader at Microsoft, with us. Hi, Vartika.
Hi
Okay,
everyone.
so
Yeah.
great. So before getting started, I would love to give a small introduction about you, Vartika, to our audience members. So Miss Vartika is an experienced HR professional. She has worked with players like Microsoft, Intel, and Adobe in the computer software industry for the last 10 years. Yes, now that is what we would like to call as a rich experience. Along with that, she is extremely passionate about pushing the role of women in business, and we've also got to know that she's a music and adventure and also a fitness lover, I believe. And in that case, I would say it's a wonderful combination. And of course, we had to get some pearls of wisdom from someone as experienced as her. So, and we're very, very excited to have you here, Vartika, today.
I echo the same feelings, Ria. Pleasure to be here.
Great. Thank you so much. So, I would just like to inform everyone who's watching us right now before we head on to the questions that we have packed. That is, if you have any questions to ask Miss Vartika, please drop them in the chat box and we will be taking them up towards the end of the session. So, you can keep posting your questions. All right. So, it's always, Vartika, very exciting for us and also all the budding professionals who are watching us to know how experts like you get started in their career. It is always a very motivating thing for them to know. So, could you please tell us a little bit about your journey, how you got started?
Sure. And with this question, I actually go back in time, roughly 12 years ago, when I was in my final year of master's. And in the final semester, all my batchmates were looking for internships, looking for jobs. Some just wanted to be in campus. And here I was trying to see how is it that I could maximize the time. And I got a job in a firm that was into background verification. I had to travel 30 odd kilometers one way. I'll not say I was new to the city because I was already in the city for 1.5 years of my MBA, but still, the distance was too much to be traveled every day. But I said, okay, let me take the challenge and learn something from the corporate. So that was my first job. And I really didn't know what background verification was, right? We used to just get the documents and we had to verify the educational qualification and the professional qualification. Um, Later, much later in my career, when I actually got to work for companies, because this was an organization that was strictly into verification, then my next job was into consultancy, a recruitment consultancy, where we were hiring for our clients, right? In that consultancy, also the background verification played a role, but not that much because some clients would sign up for it, some clients wouldn't because there was costing involved.
Hmm.
After that, when joined the real corporate career, I would say, right, what I understood was that the first step into corporate is your background verification.
Right.
Without it, you cannot enter a corporate world. What I did not realize was when I was doing the BGV is the popular acronym used for background verification. I did not realize it when I was doing it that it plays such an important role. I always thought that probably it's the smallest bit or the
Trivial
smaller
thing.
bit, very trivial, and I don't even know how relevant will it be as I grow in my career. But when I joined corporate, I realized that was the first thing. It also helped me in striking the right conversations with people, right? There was some bit of knowledge that I already had, and for the remaining, I had joined that respective organization. So that's how I started my career journey. And yes, it's been a roller coaster. I have played a variety of roles in HR. I have been an HR professional through my qualification and in my profession as well. So, right from being an HR executive to looking at HR operations, to being an HR business partner, to then joining the campus team. Uh, Pretty much done quite a lot in HR. And what I always tell people is, while you look at while you look at the relevancy of experience, always remember that you do not negate somebody's experience, because what a person is, the person is
Right.
actually a byproduct of all the experience that the person has had, right? So
True.
that's what has happened in my career journey. Not quite sure if people are aware, I've had a career break as well in my career journey. So after HR business partnering, I actually took a career break for 5 years, and for very valid reasons. My husband was traveling, and then I became a mom for the first time, and I wanted to give time to my child. And I had no touch with corporate for those 5 years. My world was shrunk to Facebook kids pages, WhatsApp mothers groups, so on and so forth.
Right.
But then I realized that that can be a part of my life and not my life. And that's a choice that I was making, right? So I'm not questioning anybody who makes a choice to just drop out of workforce for permanent. It's a choice that they make. But I always wanted to come back. And when I started looking out for opportunities after my career break, campus recruitment role happened to me. Again, as much as I wanted HR business partnering, I thought to myself that it's a great opportunity to learn something new which I hadn't done before.
Hmm.
And from then, it was Adobe, Intel, and now Microsoft, wherein I would say that I've gotten deep into the subject, and still there's so much to learn because every day things are evolving. Yeah, so that's been my career journey.
That's truly very inspiring, Vartika, how you've put it across for us. And towards the end, you're saying that it's not the end; you're still learning. That I think was the cherry on the top. And as I mentioned earlier, it's always exciting and inspiring for us to know these stories, because every time we hear such stories from experts like you, there's something very interesting we pick out. Just like you mentioned in the beginning of your answer, that you had to travel a lot during the first job that you got into, and I believe that's one thing we all should learn, and rather than complaining about these things, just take these challenges heads on. And we really have a great example right in front of us what happens in that case. So yeah,
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that with us. So
Thanks, Priya. It
moving
was
on.
fun. If I can just add, and this is needless to say, that the family that I come from, I was brought up with the basics being served to me in the right way. So I really did
Right.
not have to fend for myself. So for a person like me to say, if I want to take the challenge and move ahead, it wasn't very easy. But then if I had not done it, probably I wouldn't have landed here. I mean, life is not a bed of roses. And
It's
these
not.
challenges are what make you stronger and make you learn so much. And pandemic also has clearly, taught all of us a lot of things. So just wanted to add
Absolutely.
this point here.
Right. Yeah. Makes a lot of sense. That's true. So just like you spoke about that, in the first time that you went for a job, you were not even sure, and you had no clue what background verification was at that point of time, or how important it was. So we all make certain career plans for ourselves, but life doesn't go as per our plans all the time, and we sometimes end up pursuing something totally different than what we had thought earlier. As a student, were you always sure? I'm sure that you have an interesting bit to add here, that you wanted to do something in HR, or was there a totally different plan in the pipeline back then?
So, Ria, if I can tweak your question to a little, a little
Mhm.
bit, when you say that if I had different career choices or aspirations as a student, there were phases of it. And I'll start
Okay.
from the first phase. When I was in, I think up to 10th, I wanted to become a doctor because I fancied doctors, wearing a white coat and stethoscope and checking patients. But then I
Right.
realized that I wasn't cut out for that.
Hmm.
I definitely developed a phobia towards biology, and being very, very candid, right? And I clearly decided that's not where I want to be.
Right.
Next phase came wherein I wanted to be an air hostess. I saw my friends going for it, and I always wanted to fly high, travel, see the world. But back then, there was a limitation. There was a minimum requirement for the height, and that's how I couldn't make it. Next, I thought that, okay, why not gain a professional degree and see how HR works?
Hmm.
Um, that's how I started giving MBA exams. When I had to choose a subject, very honestly, it wasn't that I was very sure that, okay, this is what I will do and it is about HR. Uh,
Hmm.
I was confused, honestly speaking. And the way I decided was, if you have few options at hand and everything seems lucrative, you may or may not have the same level of information around all the options that you have. You should start applying the elimination option, and that's exactly what I did, right? So I was pretty clear that marketing is something that, again, it wasn't very exciting for me. Uh, somewhere I had, built my industry network, had collaborated with my alumni and spoken to them, checking how the profiles were, and that didn't seem exciting to me. Then it was finance. Somewhere in my head I said, okay, I'm not the number person. Didn't know that HR also has to do so much of crunching of
Right.
numbers. Didn't
Yes.
realize it back then when I was just a rookie. Um, then it was international business, right? Again, it wasn't enticing enough for me to make that choice. So what I was left with was HR. It's not that I blindly took HR. I spoke to my professors, had a lot of discussions with my alumni, and got to understand what is it that they were doing. To my luck, everybody whom I spoke to, at least from my seniors batch who had passed out and were working in corporates, were absolutely playing very, very different roles. Um, it was, somebody was in talent development, somebody was in compensation and benefits, somebody was looking at recruitment. So what I felt was that this particular domain, or specialization, would open doors of opportunities for me, right? I wouldn't be limited to just one arm of HR.
Hmm.
I could I could learn. I could, broaden my knowledge. And I'm glad that I made that choice. Because if I look back at my career trajectory, that's what exactly it has been, right? It doesn't mean that every 2 years I have hopped to a new role, because sometimes the role takes longer to learn. Sometimes the
Right.
role is complex. Sometimes the role is too interesting and you want to stick to it for a little longer, right? So I'm quite glad that I chose HR. But a fun fact, um, when I took a career break and
Hmm.
we returned to India, I gave birth to my daughter, and when she turned 6 months, that's when I thought I'll start working, and I started applying for jobs. And this I'm talking about 9 years ago, roughly. We did not have companies like Jobs for Her that were providing platforms to women who were returning from maternity break,
Right.
or a break for a variety of reasons, right?
Hmm.
We did not have. We did not have so many companies also welcoming such women who had taken a career break. Today, the scene is very, very different, right? So,
Yes.
1 month into job hunt, and because I was into fitness, I actually started thinking, why not become a fitness coach? Um, I was very seriously thinking on those lines, and that's when Adobe happened, and it was a dream come true for me to get back into corporate. Too hard to say no. So while I joined Adobe, I continued my passion for fitness as well. So yeah, too many career choices if you see, but at different phases of life. So what it also tells you is that every situation in life will teach you so much. What
True.
you start your goal as may change tomorrow, because
Hmm.
you as a person will evolve. Your needs, your demands, your situations, the context that you are making the goal today will also change, right? And there's nothing wrong or right in it. It's a choice that you make. So
Right. I
yeah,
think that's exactly what I believe everybody watching us right now wanted to hear from you. That's totally all right to be moving, jumping from here and there, and that is eventually adding just to your experience. I believe whatever you do in life, even if you would become a say fitness expert, even that would have been a great experience and an add-on. I believe. So yeah, okay, so since we've already started talking about HR a little bit, it brings me to the question that every industry has its own challenges. So, what has been that biggest challenge that you faced in your career? Maybe apart from that little career break that you must have taken, was there any other challenge that you faced, and how did you overcome it?
So, Ria, that's a fabulous question. And I will go back to my career break because there's a lot of learning there.
Right.
I think everybody on the call should know that it's okay to take a break, but how you continue to be resilient, and how you decide that you want to bounce back. It's a choice that you make, and how can you go about it, right? So when I decided to take a career break, I knew in my head that I would get back to corporate. Didn't know when, how, no clue. Just believe my gut, wanted to spend time with my kid, and went ahead. Um, when I got call from Adobe, in my interview, I was asked, this is a new role that we're offering you. If you look at your profile, we did not see any relevance to the current role that we may offer you. And I told them the same thing, that please do not negate my earlier experience, because I am what I am today is because of my past experience. And they said, we are risking it with you. And I said, I'm risking it myself, uh, but I will ensure that you get all the meat to hire me. And it turned out that I had the offer in next week's time. But I still remember my day one in office. Very vivid, very, very vivid. Certain experiences in your life, they just get etched in your
True.
mind. And this was one. When I entered Adobe office in Bangalore, um, I was confident, but at the same time, somewhere it was hitting me hard that I was returning after a career break. I sat in the conference room where there were 20 other people who were onboarding the same date, and they did not have any career break. Quite fast paced, very moving, along with the instructions being given in the room. And here we had an IT person, back before my career break, the companies that I had worked was that, the IT team used to set up the laptop and give it to you. And here I
Okay.
landed after 5 years of break, wherein we had to be in the room, and IT was instructing us how do
Right.
you install the different apps and Outlook, everything in your laptop. And I started feeling jittery, honestly speaking.
Mm.
The only thought in my mind was, okay, everybody in the room knows that I don't know anything. And probably, I've forgotten everything. To my luck, and to everybody's luck, you don't forget anything. It remains in your subconscious mind.
Right.
As when the instructions proceeded, everything started coming back. And that started giving me confidence that, uh, I know maybe not everything, but I haven't forgotten everything either. But it was challenging, very, very challenging. It did not stop there. I remember first few weeks in office, right? Uh, Wherein people used to just look at me. Not because I was a returning mom, because that's how they were. But in my head, I used to think that probably they think I'm a returning mom, and that is why they aren't talking to me. But that's not true. I started making an effort, and I started mingling with people, talking to them. And today is the day when they are my biggest cheerleaders.
Right.
But it did take time. It was challenging to gain that confidence, to know what was happening in the industry, right? To build that network all over again. Second, that I would quote, and this would be very true for everybody across the globe, right?
Mm.
Um, COVID just turned our lives upside down,
True.
literally upside down, right? Personally, professionally. I mean, I know students were impacted badly in colleges. I mean, we had never heard of virtual education the way it happened in
Mm.
last 2 years, right? The kids were impacted. Uh, Employees in the organization, there wasn't, any human connect. Everything was happening on calls. And to my luck, I was in a new organization right at the start of the pandemic, and everybody in the organization, they knew that I had joined, but that was the time when the pandemic had just hit globally. So everybody was kind of just sitting in that space, figuring out what has really happened. How is it that they should be navigating? Right.
Right.
And here I was, new to the organization, full of energy, trying to prove myself.
Mm.
But I saw that people were in their own spaces, right? People used to join meetings, but not come together. So
Right.
for 2, 3 years, I pretty much continued talking to black screen.
Mm.
And it was hard. It was really, really hard because I'm one person who loves, I mean, in human resources, human is the first word, and it's very close to my heart because I like to stay connected with humans.
Mm.
That didn't happen. Virtually, it was happening, but I knew trust building, relationship building, it'll be very limited in a virtual
Mm.
setup.
True.
I took a challenge, right? And in that challenge, I also had a team to manage. My team wasn't in the same city where I was operating from. They were pan India. How do you get connected? How do you establish trust, right? How do you even let your team believe in you,
Mm.
right? Lot of effort it took. What I started with first was empathy. Uh, Everybody, including my business stakeholders, I knew were going through a lot, right? I was going through a lot. I mean, I lost a few very close family members to COVID, right? Then beating myself to it that, okay, I'm in a new organization and let me not show. I became candid with my team that this is what I'm going through. That
Mm.
allowed my team to open up, that allowed my team to share what they were going through, right? I remember a couple of times one of my team member was taking very, very long leaves, right? While the others were chiming in for him to kind of do the work, I sensed that it'll be easy for me to just question her. But what's
Right.
the right approach is ask her in a way that I can extend help, right? So I went
Yes.
back to her and I said that there's something that you are struggling with, otherwise you will not be taking off, right? Is there something that we can do? Or do you think you want to work half day for a week or so to sort out things? Or do you think you want a 1 month leave to sort out things? Because this erratic work presence is not helping you either, right? And that and he came back and he said, yes, 2 weeks would work. And trust me, after 2 weeks, the kind of output I saw from the person was phenomenal. Phenomenal. Similar
Right.
things happened in business, right? When I joined, because people had not met me, trust building, relationship building wasn't there, right? But it happened gradually. What I learned in the process was that you have to have resilience, a lot of patience, allow the other person to talk.
Right.
You may be an SME, right? I consider
Mm.
myself an SME in campus, though I still say I'm learning. But
Mm.
people who were in that organization, they were from the line of thought that I have been doing it for years. So you can't teach me, right?
Right.
And they
Yes.
were absolutely, I'll not say that they were wrong. They had done things in a certain way. What I
Mm.
realized in the process was it's important to hear them out. It's important to hear them out as to how is it that they have been doing? What is it that has worked for them, right? And then
Right.
think strategically. How is it that I can play a part in designing their business goals with respect to campus? And that worked in those 2 3 years. I think the most gratifying thing was when my own team nominated me for an award. That was something which was very, very gratifying for me because I did not expect. It came with a lot of connect, relationship building, empathy, lot of diversity and inclusion just in your conversations, right?
Right.
But yes, these two times were very, very, very challenging, right? The ease with which I quoted, it didn't pass through with this ease.
Absolutely.
But I did not give up because it was a clear an opportunity to learn and to make an impact. So, yeah, that's what it would be.
Right. The two very important aspects, elements I picked up from your answer right now were two words: effort and empathy. I think we all should take note of these two words because they take us places. They are very, very important for us in every sphere of life, I would say, and especially our professional careers, no matter what level of our career we are on. Are we just starting or, we are in a leadership position? Effort and empathy, I believe they never really leave us. They're going to stay with us forever.
Yeah, I think just to add to it, Ria, growth mindset. No matter where you go, which role
Yes.
you go, right? I would replace effort with growth mindset because you may think that you know it all, but every organization has some context, right?
Yes.
You need to be open to learn. You need to be open to adapt. As much as they have made you a part of their organization, the ball is in your court, right?
Right.
You need to make an equal effort now. So group mindset is very, very important and it'll play a role in everything, right? Be it learning
Right.
about the organization, relationship building, trust building, all of it.
Right. Makes a lot of sense. Okay. You just mentioned something about adapting. So that sort of takes me to the question where we know that every industry is rapidly evolving, and considering the fast pace of the HR industry in particular, how have you adapted to the changes and the shifts in your industry over the last few years?
So there are so many, Ria. I mean, if we just look at last 3 years, it has only and only been changes, right?
True.
Right from the start of the pandemic to the way companies started reacting to the first year
Hmm.
of pandemic, and then the way started companies reacting to the second year of pandemic, and then now. right? Lot of changes, right? But I will go back when I started, how is it that I adapted, right? So something that I've always kept in mind is, and I said that in the previous statement as well, is growth mindset. Uh, Not letting your experiences get into your head, but being always open to learn is something that has always kept me going, right? People may think it's a very broad term, but how do you learn, right?
Mm,
So many courses, certifications, LinkedIn, network, alumni, right?
mm,
Conferences, webinars to attend, to just know what is the industry trend, right?
mm,
Sometimes it may not be of your area of interest, but you will learn,
mm.
right? So
Yes,
ensure that you do not, you keep that in. What also helped me over the years was embracing technology. I mean, the way today technology is being leveraged, the way today data driven decisions are being taken is not the same what it was, 5 6 years ago.
right.
So it is extremely important that you adapt. Today, the technology is at one level. 2 years down the line, it'll go at another level. I mean, everybody is using Chat GPT today, right?
Yes,
Nobody thought about it 5 years ago. That's
that's
adaptation.
right.
Um, what also helped me was I was very agile and flexible. I knew that if I was entering with a very fixated mindset, it is only going to give me this much, but I
True.
was always hungry for more, right? And that can only happen with agility and flexibility. The moment you close doors, you're closing opportunities for yourself, right? Um, Developing resilience, right? I mean, it's been extremely fast paced in HR as well and very, very demanding, right?
Mm,
And all the three stages, especially the last 3 years that I mentioned, have had
mm,
variety of challenges for HR fraternity, right? How we navigated those challenges helped us to develop resilience for ourselves and for the organization, right? The, the company's culture, creating
mm.
employee experience became even more important today than what it was, let's say, 7 8 years ago, right?
True.
Collaboration between departments, different departments. It became so important, right?
Mm,
What also worked for me was very clear cut communication, asking for
right.
feedback, seeking feedback, because a lot many times you think what you are doing is right.
Mm,
You may think this is the way I operate and this is the way people will think I am, but you'll be surprised to know that probably you are being perceived differently, right? While your intentions are in place, the perceptions could be something else, right? What always helps is I always was open to feedback and very, very open communication, right? I have gone back to my teams and asked them, what do you think I should start or
mm,
continue or stop doing? And it is only when you kind of provide psychological safety to your teams will they open up and share. Otherwise, everybody's going to be sitting quiet in the room,
right.
right? Anticipating future trends is again something that really helped. When pandemic hit,
Mm,
people were in a dilemma what to do. It happened in March 2020. The
yes.
first lockdown happened, right? And most of the organizations were ready to onboard their interns in the month of April, right?
Yes.
How
Yes.
do you think ahead of time, right? Because nobody had clue. Colleges did not have clue, students did not have clue, corporates did not have clue, right? But understanding the future trends again, and you can't be sitting alone in a room and assuming that this is how future trend is going to look
Yes.
like. Lot of your industry connects, a lot of reading, research
Mm.
is going to help you get there, right? So yes, that's how I have been able to adapt to changes over the years.
Those are some wonderful tips. I'm myself making mental notes right now. So yeah, thank you. Also, Vatika, you've been really close to young talent for all these years now, so many years. So in your opinion, how important, I'm now taking the conversation to a different direction totally. In your opinion, how important is upskilling, or why do you think it is important for us to spend some time in training and development for freshers, I'm talking about?
Thanks, Ria. And while your question is pertaining to freshers, I think upskilling is across.
Never stops for
It,
anybody, right?
it doesn't stop, and it should never stop, right? While freshers, you called out freshers because the freshers are on this call,
Yes.
upskilling should never stop. And again, it will be related to growth mindset, right? So for me, the upskilling is something that keeps you very, very relevant and competitive in the job market, right? You The job market, if you see, is constantly evolving. When I started, when I played the role of HR business partnering quite a few years ago, HR business partnering concept itself was very, very new.
Mm.
I did not hear from many organizations who had HR business partners. And it has evolved so much today that every organization has HR business partners, right?
Right,
So you need to be, you for sure need to stay relevant and competitive in the job market. And how would you do that? Upskilling is the way, right? Very, very important. By this, you are only increasing your chances of employability, right? When you go for interviewers, right? Sorry, when you go for interviews, interviewers are looking for people with potential. As much as they're looking for what you can bring to the table, I think times have changed wherein the potential in a candidate is also equally valued,
yes,
right? Um, but I think me, if I'm attending an interview and if I just say yes, I want to learn this, I want to learn that, but if I haven't shown any efforts in upskilling, the interviewer will know, right?
right,
So it always matters that you are able to back up what you are saying, right? Always remember that employers truly value people who are showing willingness to learn, but ensure that you've backed it up with something, right? Even when you're in college, you've taken some additional efforts to learn something, right?
right,
To make a difference. And it could be anything. It could just be helping one of your peers succeed,
right.
helping one of your batchmate improve in a particular subject, right?
Mm.
Or leading some event in college, right? Or participating in an external workshop just to build your network, right? So on and so forth. Uh, Building, I mean, upskilling also helps you in acquiring a lot of confidence, right? A lot many times, uh, when change happens, uh, people resist to change, and the
Right,
resistance is to the fact that they fear the unknown, right? But acquiring new skills, it gives you so much of confidence. It boosts your morale, right? You know for sure that if you have a conversation with somebody in future, you will be able to share at least a line or two on the subject, right?
right,
That gives you the confidence, right? That also shows the other person that you know the subject and you can clearly own it, that maybe I don't know it all, this is the only thing I know, but I'm keen to learn more,
right.
right? So it
Yes,
helps you build confidence, right? Adapt to technological advancements. I mean, it's a must. It's a must. The data-driven decisions that are being taken today were really unheard of a decade ago. Yes, they were being taken, but a lot of manual efforts were in place. Today, with technology, right? I mean, there's so much, so many apps available, right? You need to learn how to use and leverage all of it to ensure that you are upskilling yourself, right? Yeah, better job performance, needless to say, right? Better job performance, reducing skill
yes,
gaps, uh, will just come hand in hand whenever you think that, okay, I need to upskill myself. Personally, I don't think that there should be a time in your life where you think you need to upskill yourself. It is a continuous journey,
yes, yes,
absolutely continuous journey, right? Because there's something or the other that'll always be there that you don't know. So do not confine yourself, and please keep investing in your own learning and growth. And it need not just be limited to certifications or workshops. Talking to people itself can make you learn so much, right? Not
right.
everything in life should be experienced by you. You can learn from others' experiences as well. Yeah. So these were a few points that I would say as to why upskilling is important.
Coming from you, Vartika, I believe that this will be a big motivation for everybody who's watching us right now. And how upskilling is a continuous process. I'm sure that this is one thing we all should just keep in our minds forever, wherever we are, whatever stage of our career in. So, yeah. Also, we are very curious to know. Honestly, I am very curious to know, as a university leader, what does your role entail? It's something very different we are hearing. It's not the normal HR thing. So, what are some key highlights from your job role, or maybe if you could just tell us what a typical day in your work life looks like?
Yeah, as much as I would like to say, it's a very structured day, and I go and I sit in AC and start my work and then log off at 5. It's not that. It's not that. And that's exactly where your agility comes into play, right? So typical day for me, sometimes we start at 9, sometimes we start at 6:30 a.m. as well. And
Okay.
last month I remember it started at 5:30 a.m. And 5:30 a.m. wasn't a mandated meeting because people in other geographies know, right, that it is going to be really early for India. But
Yes.
having a growth mindset, I had signed up for that session to be a facilitator for people in other geographies. So that was the extra bit that I took, right? To just learn and understand how people in other geographies react to a certain subject or a topic to learn. So, yeah, that's how my typical day starts. While there are certain scheduled meetings which have been prepped prior, because usually the calendar shows the meetings 20, minimum 24 hours prior. But
Right.
trust me, there is so much of ad hoc work that happens, right? All of a sudden, there'll be an email, okay, I need this data, right? Or all of a sudden, you'll be pulled into a call which was not scheduled, that, okay, we are trying to get this information and we don't know. Uh, there was a case 2 years ago, and this is the context. Do you know everything about it, right? Trust me, you will definitely not know everything, right? How do I typically go about it is I tell them that I know this much, but if you allow me some time, I will come back to you, right?
Right.
uh, Whenever there is a data request, and trust me, data requests are very ad hoc. They do not come uh, they do not come with a prior notice, right? uh,
Yes.
Even with the 24 hours notice, sometimes the number crunching takes time, right?
Right.
So understanding the tools and processes in your current organization is extremely critical, right? Because today you may be playing a role which does not allow you to interact as much with a leader, right? But
Yes.
tomorrow, right, there will be times when people would want to fall back on you for a certain asks, right? And you need to build that for yourself. You need to develop that trust for yourself that, you know what, if you have any request, you can fall back on me and I can provide you, right? So these would be one. Of course, there are escalations that keep happening once in a while.
Right.
Not everybody is going to be aligned with the approach that you have. And this goes without saying that it happens in every role. It
Right.
is not only with campus recruitment, or it is not only with recruitment. Even HR business partners or talent development folks, compensation and benefits, right? Everybody has their own challenges, right? So escalations, uh, it's not that we don't have, right? Sometimes escalations can take about half an hour. Sometimes escalations can take about 1 hour, and sometimes escalations can prolong for a period of a week or two,
Okay.
which means you need to continuously work and have the conversation on, then tell the person, you know what, you don't know anything, I know it. That's how
Right.
the thumb rule in corporate is you need to take people along. And when everybody succeeds, you will succeed. So it is never about I, it is always about we, right? But of course, in all of this, I definitely have my fun moments as well. I have a lot of global colleagues. So I think every day I definitely get into a call with people from either Asia or EMEA or US, right? And I totally love it because I get a sneak peek into their world, right? Sometimes the culture could be different. Sometimes the local nuances could be different. Sometimes we are touch basing on a personal level, right? So yes, that's how a typical day would look like. I typically end my day by 5. But then if there are global calls, then it extends beyond. Anything that's beyond 10:30 is very hard for me because I have a very strict fitness regime. So I find it hard how to bake it into my fitness regime because I have to
Right.
sleep at a certain time. But then it's okay. Once in a while, it's absolutely fine. Yes, that's how a typical day would look like. If it's somebody's birthday or something, then there are celebrations, or if somebody's completing some milestone anniversaries, then there are celebrations, or we celebrate promotions, new additions in the family, and all of it.
Yeah. I really loved, Vartika, how you were so excited by telling this bit to us. And it was not just the fun moments you were excited about, you were equally candid and, open to sharing wherever the challenges were, starting your day early or maybe extending it. I did not see any sort of inhibition while you were telling all this to us. And this in itself is such a big learning. The day you start enjoying your work like this, and ideally it should happen from day one, I believe. Might take time for us to reach there, but I think that's what we're all aiming for, having fun at what we do. That's so nice. Thank you. So that brings me to the question now, finally, that what advice do you have for the young professionals who are just starting out in their careers? You've told us so many different things. If you could just put everything in a nutshell and share with our audience.
I think by now people would have guessed that first point that you will say is have a growth mindset, right? Be a continuous and a curious learner, right? Uh, Question, think, right? When I say question, please do not enter an organization and say, why are you doing this? It's bullshit, right? That's not how it will work, right? First, understand what is being done, why is it being done, and how is it being done, right? But be curious and then think through what is the best industry practice. Can you kind of bake in some of those to the current processes or policies? And then say that, while I heard you, do you think this addition may refine it further? Right? And do not stop at that. It may be taken, it may not be taken. Trust me, not every time will it be taken. Maybe out of 10 times, only 2 times it gets taken. But if you have made an effort all the 10 times, you have clearly displayed yourself as somebody who's very curious, somebody who has a thinking mind and broods over things, right? So please ensure that you continue to learn, you continue to be curious, right? Uh, Focus a lot on developing strong foundation for yourselves. As I said, there are so many different facets of HR, right?
Right.
While company specific nuances is something that you will learn once you are in the organization, there is a lot of reading that you can do. There's a lot of learning from others that you can do, right? In areas of recruitment, employment laws, OD, employee relations, right? So ensure that your foundation is clear. Uh, a lot of people say that, oh, I read this in theory, it doesn't apply here. Trust me, you are a byproduct of your learning, of your education and experiences, right? So
Yes.
have that in mind and focus on having a solid base, right? Effective communication skills. By this, I don't mean that you need to have a very flowery English. I
Hmm.
haven't used any fancy English words, if you see, right? The point of communication is that what you are saying should be understood by the other person. Very, very important. Today's world, everybody has less time. Everything is so fast paced, right? If you get business folks on call, trust me, they will not be able to spend more than 20 minutes, right? But if you have prepared a deck which goes about 2 hours, it's not going to lead you anywhere. You will not even get their buy in, right? How you concise that information, right? How you project it in a way that you are able to get the output that you've set yourself out for in that particular meeting will be a byproduct of building strong communication skills, right? And it includes both verbal and written. Today, in a global setup, you are interacting with a lot of global folks, right? You will be on global calls. Sometimes, no, because the person is on leave or the person is having some emergency or it is very late for you and you cannot stay awake, right? In those scenarios, you will have to drop an email. How do you have written communication skills wherein you are able to communicate what you have to communicate and get the output what you are striving for? So yes, building strong communication skills, empathy. No matter what role you play, no matter which organization you are in, no matter what role you are in, empathy goes a long, long way. I had read somewhere, people will always remember how you treated them, and it comes with empathy, right? Uh, Ensure that when you're meeting people, just check on them. How have you been? How was your weekend? I hope everything is fine in your home. Do not start with assumptions because assumptions will lead you to build walls around you. Do not
Yes.
do that, right? Always, always embrace empathy. You know, HR is a very a very important department in any organization, right? We are custodians of so much of information, so much, right?
True.
So you come to think of it when candidates give their resumes to us, right? We know their personal email IDs, we know their address, we know so much about them, right? Then when they come into the system, we know even more further details about them because we have insurance, they'll sign up their families for it, we know their salaries, right? Then gradually we get to know about their interests and all. So basically, we are custodians of so much information, personal information and business information, right?
Right.
We should always remember that we should hold all of this in high regards and with absolute confidentiality. Absolute confidentiality, right? With so much of technology right now, so much of cloud right now, the whole talk about is data protection,
Yes.
right? And HR plays a big, big role, right? Be approachable, open minded, agile. Do not be closed. Do not be closed. If you're not aware of a subject, topic, just say that I'm not aware of it, but keen to learn. That's about it. The other person will take interest to share more with you than you saying, "Oh, this doesn't interest me. Keep quiet." You've shut the door for to learn even, right?
True.
Understanding your business, super critical. You have to know your client well,
Hmm.
right? For you to serve your client, first is you have to know your client well.
Yes.
Second, you have to know what is working well with your client. And third, very, very important, where is it that you can enable your client for success?
Yes. Right.
Right? Simple example could be a particular team is having a lot of attrition, right? Have you, as an HR business partner, tried intervening, tried just doing a study as to what is the attrition trend and what is it that can be done? It could be that students, freshers are leaving, or it could
Yes.
be people with mid experience are leaving. And there
Hmm.
could be many reasons. It could be monotony of role, it could be compensation, it could be some behavioral issue or some concerns with the manager, right? But until and unless you know your business well, you
Hmm.
will not be able to help them well,
Yes. Right.
right? So very, very important. And this is, an analogy would be when you go to a doctor, right?
Hmm.
You say a problem loud to ensure that the medication that comes to you is for that particular problem, right?
Yes.
Similar, you cannot be designing or defining things in the air without understanding what really your business needs to ensure that you are contributing to the overall success of your company, right? Continue embracing diversity and inclusion. Today it's a term that every organization is using, and
Yes.
I am personally a very firm believer of diversity and inclusion. Right? We as HRs should allow every voice to be heard, irrespective of how they look, where they come from, what they speak, how they dress up, nothing, right? And we are the custodians of it again, right? We start and we build a culture of diversity and inclusion in the company. Very, very important. Be patient to people, be an active listener. As
Hmm.
much as you want to advise people, after they speak the first line, don't hold on to your horses. Allow the other person to complete. And then
Right.
maybe you want to give it a pause, maybe you want to take a day to kind of get back to the person than being reactive in the moment. Do not do that, right? Conflict resolution is a very, very key skill in HR. You will have conflicts, right? People who manage employee relations definitely manage a lot of conflicts, but people in
Yes.
other facets of HR also manage a lot of conflicts, right? How do you get that going? Right? So ensure that you are kind of honing that skill, right? Last but not the least, seek mentorship. You know, uh, ensure that when you enter any organization, you ask your manager that, while you are my manager, I can trust you with all my learning. I think it'll be good for me to have a mentor, right? A lot of times you may not be able to share a lot of things with your manager, but mentor will be the one who will help you.
Yes.
So
Right.
ensure that you are having a good mentor for yourself to help you navigate in any organization. And mentorship is not needed just when you're entering the organization, right? It is needed throughout. It doesn't mean that the first mentor you signed up with should continue to be there till the time you're in the organization. You can add more mentors, right?
Yes.
And that also helps you to learn and grow. So yeah, these would be few pointers, but I felt all of these are very, very relevant with the fast-paced and ever-changing
Yes.
environment.
They absolutely are, Vartika. I'm sure that everybody who's watching us right now would definitely benefit. I'm sure they're all making notes, and all these make a lot of sense. So thank you so much for sharing them with us. With that, we also come to the end of our discussion, but our audience has some really interesting questions to ask you. So if you just allow me, I can read some of them out for you.
Sure.
Okay, so there's a question, and I believe that this will be a question that a lot of people will have in their mind. How important is it to do MBA in HR to enter the HR domain?
Okay, so I'll tie back to the same question, right? Foundation is a must, right? If I just have to attend an interview and say I'm very empathetic, please hire me, will they hire me? Not really, right? But let's say, for example, if you've done another specialization, let's say you've taken marketing and finance, right? But if you are interested in human resources, how is it that you can back up your interest? Right? I cannot go and say that I'm interested in HR, right? The question is going to turn back on me saying, then why did you do marketing and finance? Right?
True.
Okay, probably that time I wasn't clear. I thought that interests me. But now I think I want to do HR. Okay, what about HR interests you? Have you learned anything about HR? Have you spoken to a people? Can you share what you know about HR, right? That's the time when you don't want to be zipped. That's where your reading, certifications, workshops, connecting with industry experts is going to come into picture,
Right.
right? So it's not a mandate that you have. In fact, a lot of organizations today, a lot of mature organizations today are okay to take people who've not specialized in HR, right?
Yes.
But you should be able to crack the interview. You should be able to kind of stand apart from others who are coming to the same interview who specialize in HR.
Yes. Right. Makes sense. I hope that answers the question for everybody. So the next question is, what does an HR look for in a resume?
This is very, very subjective. Um, I, as an individual, would of course see every organization will have some basic cuts, right? A
Right.
lot of organizations are very campus focused. A lot of organizations have evolved so much today that they've become college agnostic. It doesn't matter where the person is coming from, the person should be good
Right.
and should show the potential to learn, right? So there isn't one size that fits all. There isn't. What you should actually do is, if you are attending an interview or you're applying for a job, please do some kind of study on that company and you will get to know, right? Go to Quora, go to LinkedIn, right? See, you have some common connections with that company. Try and figure out how open is the company, right? That will help you to navigate your conversations accordingly and prep well with respect to your profile as well. Very, very important, right? A lot of organizations today are seeing pretty standard things in resume, but what I would say is if there is something that really stands apart in your profile,
True.
that is definitely going to catch their eye,
Right.
right? And it can be anything, as I said, right? But before I give an example, whatever you're quoting in your resume, please ensure it's very, very factual. You are able
Yes.
to support whatever you've written. It shouldn't make you fall flat when a question is asked to probe further on that particular point, right?
Right.
It could be things like, very simple things. In my free time, I teach slum kids, right? I know you can't write that in the resume, but
Hmm.
the way you can project is that, I believe in giving back to the society. I am involved in social service, right? But ensure that you're not making it sound very loose. You are
Yes.
able to substantiate it. Very, very important, right? So a uniqueness in profile is something that will not go unnoticed, right? Each of us has our own uniqueness. You need to think what is it that you have unique in you, and
Right.
go ahead and mention that.
Perfect. That makes sense. All right. Okay. So there's another very interesting question, where this person is asking us that when is the time we know that it's time to switch career?
When it's time to switch career. Okay, again, a very, very subjective question, right? See, a lot of people are happy doing what they are doing,
Right.
and they can do the same thing for years to come or forever, right? Then there are some people who have a window to be doing a certain thing, let's say 2 to 3 years max, and then they want a
Yes.
change, right? They're okay to change within the organization. Then there are some people who say that, okay, I've given 4 years to the organization. While I want to change, I
Mm.
pretty much know everybody in the organization, or I pretty much have
Right.
absorbed what I could absorb from this organization, right? Let me venture out. So
Right.
everybody will have their own definitions of looking out, right? And there's nothing wrong or right in it. Each of us will have different situations, different contexts. We need to see what is it that's working for all. If you have to ask me personally, last 7, 8 years, I wasn't looking for a change, right? Uh, Adobe, I went ahead with Adobe because I was looking for a job. When Intel happened to me, I wasn't looking for a change. I was very well settled in Adobe. But when Intel happened to me, I did not close the door. I
Right.
went ahead. I said, okay, if an opportunity is knocking my door, it doesn't take much for me to just attend an interview and see how do I stand in the market now.
Right.
And with multiple rounds of interview, I bagged an offer, and that's how I ended up joining them. While I was settled in Intel, Microsoft happened to knock me on LinkedIn. And again, Microsoft was definitely in one of my target list of organizations, but I was quite happy with Intel. But then again, I told myself that if an opportunity is coming my way, why not just test the waters and attend an interview?
Yes. Right.
And I attended, right? And I got an offer, and it was too lucrative to say no, right? So while I've shared my side of the story, it may not hold good for all of you, right? So you need to see what is it that is leading to a saturation point for you in the organization. The only word of advice that I will give you is do not let yourself reach that saturation point, because you do
Yes.
not want to reach a point wherein you become desperate. Always ensure that you are leaving an organization on a good note, right? Which also means that once you've kind of tried and tested whatever you could, you consciously decide to make a move out of the organization, right? So just ensure that your reasons of leaving the organization are very clear in your mind so that you don't end up repenting. But there is no one size that fits all.
Yes. True. That's actually a wonderful advice that you've shared. Thank you so much. And with that, we come to the end of the questions. Before that, let me just tell you there are a lot of people who are telling us in comments, who are thanking us for this session, thanking you for the wonderful insights. So yeah, just wanted to pass that on to you. And we truly appreciate the time and effort that you've given us in this session. I'm sure we all had a lot of learnings from your journey, and we will carry this with us for a long, long time. So thank you so much, Vartika.
Thank you so much, Ria. It was really a pleasure being a part of the session, and you were a wonderful host. So, thank
Thank you.
you for partnering in the session. I hope students clearly had takeaways, and I still understand that there could be a lot of questions in their mind, and it's okay to have questions. That clearly shows that there is growth mindset. That clearly shows that
Yes.
they're curious and they want to make
Right.
an impact, right? So, let them keep coming in, and all the very best to all of you. Uh, make make all your efforts, do your best, and leave the rest. Do not be impulsive and do not be impatient. When you start your journey, you need to be patient in your career. Sometimes things will happen quickly, sometimes things will not happen quickly. Do not be disheartened and continue to manifest positivity. Things will happen.
That's a wonderful note that you've ended the conversation on. Also, a very big thank you to all our audience members. I hope that you all got the much needed insight and inspiration from Miss Vartika today. I also believe that you must have now understood the importance of upskilling and that it should never really stop. On that note, you must visit the IST website and start your upskilling journey today with a plethora of courses to choose from on the Internshala trainings platform. And here I would like to wrap up the wonderful session. Once again, thank you very much, Vartika. Hope you have a great evening. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ria. Thanks, everyone. Have a great evening and an awesome weekend. Bye bye. Take care.
Bye. Thank you.